Hey everyone, Benson, Performance Capability. Hope you're doing well. So let me ask you this question. What if fear wasn't a stop sign, but it was literally a compass? What if the very thing that you've been avoiding is the exact thing that's meant to guide you forward? You know, neuroscience proves it. Discomfort literally rewires your brain, building new connections, unlocking, new opportunities and new strength. Think about it. Every breakthrough you've ever had came as a result of after the fear, not before it. So let me ask you, what would your life look like if you started treating discomfort as literally your GPS to greatness? What opportunities would suddenly open if you followed the very signals that you've been ignoring? And here's the real thing, here's the real test. Are you willing to let discomfort, not comfort, be the navigator of your destiny? Or will you keep letting fear hold the map to your future? Let's understand this a bit more in this message. Let's run the intro.
Hold your breath. What if everything that you've been taught about success is literally back to front? What if the very thing that you've been running from, that gnawing discomfort in your chest, that voice telling you that you're not ready, that feeling of being completely out of your depth, what if that's not a warning sign to turn back, but a GPS signal pointing you directly towards your ultimate destination? I'm going to tell you something that might shatter everything you believe about growth and development. The path to your dreams is paved with discomfort. And the reason most people never reach their potential isn't because they lack talent, intelligence, or opportunity. It's because they've been conditioned to believe that growth should feel good every single time. Let me be crystal clear with you from the start. Growth never comes wrapped in a comfort blanket. Comfort is seductive. It's familiar. It whispers sweet lies, literally in your ear. But here's the brutal truth. Comfort is a cage with gold bars. Today, what I want to do is share with you why discomfort isn't the enemy, and why it's your greatest teacher. And why, by the end of this video, you'll understand every moment you spend avoiding discomfort is a moment stolen from your future self. See, here's the fundamental problem. Here's what society has programmed into your mind. That growth is supposed to feel good. That when you're on the right path, everything flows effortlessly. That you feel motivated, confident, certain before taking action. This is the biggest lie ever sold to human potential. Most people are sitting at the threshold of their breakthrough, waiting for a feeling that will literally never come. They're waiting to feel ready to start. They're waiting to feel confident before they speak up. They're waiting to feel motivated before they hit the gym. They're waiting to feel certain before they can make that career change. And because of that, because they're waiting to feel comfortable, they'll never move. They'll become prisoners of their own comfort zones, watching life happen to everyone else while they remain a spectator in their own story. So, see, I see this everywhere with people, incredible ideas who never act on them because the first step feels too uncomfortable. People with massive potential who stay in jobs they hate because change feels uncertain. People who dream of transformation but refuse to walk through the door because it doesn't come with, guarantees. But here's what they don't understand. The discomfort that they're avoiding isn't a bug in the system. It's actually a feature of the system. It's not broken code, that needs fixing. It's the exact mechanism designed to unlock your next level. So think about it. Any major breakthrough in human history, the Wright brothers didn't feel ready when they attempted to fly. Marie Curie didn't feel comfortable probably feeling the first woman to win a Nobel Prize, but she did it. Steve Jobs didn't feel certain when he dropped out of college to start Apple. They all worked through doors of massive discomfort. And that's precisely what made them legendary. See, the problem isn't that discomfort exists. The problem is that you've been taught to interpret discomfort as a stop sign when it's actually a green light to go. See, let me share with you part of my story. Just something that, I think is really important for you to know that will illustrate this principle in action. So a few years ago, I was trapped in what looked like success from the outside, but felt like suffocation from within. I had a corporate job, I was CEO, I was well paid, a predictable routine, and what everyone else around me calls security, for me was something different. But every morning I woke up with this hollow feeling in my chest, like I was living someone else's life. I had ideas burning inside me, things that I wanted to do, but every time I thought about leaving this safe job to pursue the discomfort, it became overwhelming. The voice in my head was relentless. Who do you think you are? You can't succeed. You don't have enough experience. The discomfort of uncertainty felt like it was going to consume me. For months, I stood at that doorway paralyzed. I would research business plans during my lunch breaks, then close the laptop and convince myself to wait just a little longer until I felt a little bit more prepared. I was addicted to the illusion of readiness. Then came the moment that literally changed everything. I was sitting in a meeting, listening to someone discuss a project that felt completely meaningless, to me and some of the people around me. And at that point, I realized something profound. I was more afraid of staying the same than I was of change. The discomfort of remaining trapped had finally become greater than the discomfort of leaping into the unknown. So literally that afternoon, I went to the private equity office that had invested in this particular business that I was CEO of. I gave my notice, no perfect plan, just the pure, terrifying, exhilarating discomfort. And for the next 6 months, they were the most challenging, exciting, uncomfortable that I had ever had in my life. Moments of doubt, situations of unknown. There were nights that I couldn't sleep, mornings where I'd wake up thinking, did I make the right decision? Every single uncomfortable moment was teaching me something valuable. The rejection taught me resilience. The uncertainty taught me to trust my intuition. The financial situation, we had money, but I was going to have to use it all. Taught me to have some courage. Today, I come here not as someone who avoided discomfort, but someone who learned to dance literally with it. My business has impacted thousands of lives. I wake up energized every day because I feel like I'm on purpose. I've built something meaningful that reflects who I truly am. None of this would have been possible if I had stayed comfortable. The discomfort I was so afraid of wasn't my enemy. It was literally my mentor pushing me in that direction. Trying to forge me into a person capable of living the kind of life that I professed was important to me. So here's the universal principle I want you to understand. This isn't just my story. This is the universal law of how things work. So let me paint you a picture that will help you understand this at a cellular level. Discomfort is like a locked door that looks intimidating from the outside. The door is thick, imposing, and you can't see what's behind it. Most people stare at this door and they turn around. They assume it's locked for a reason, to keep them out, literally to keep them out. But here's the secret. The key has always been in your pocket. Every time you step into discomfort, you're not breaking and entering. You're unlocking the next level for yourself. Think about how muscles grow. It doesn't grow when you're sitting on your couch, eating Cheetos. It grows when you put stress on it, when you create micro tears in the tissue and you force it to rebuild itself. The discomfort you feel during a workout isn't your muscles complaining, it's your muscles literally celebrating their change, their transformation. Your entire life operates around this same principle. Growth and comfort cannot coexist. They are mutually exclusive states. If you're comfortable, you're not growing. If you're growing, you're not comfortable. This isn't a flaw in the system. It's not a flaw in the design. This is the design. This is how it's supposed to be. Every caterpillar must dissolve into complete vulnerability before becoming a butterfly. The cocoon isn't comfortable. It's a crucible, literally, of change and transformation. The caterpillar doesn't know it will fly when it enters the space of disillusion. It just knows it can't stay the same. Here's what most people don't realize about discomfort. It's not punishment for dreaming big. It's preparation for achieving big. Every uncomfortable moment is building your capacity to handle greater success, deeper relationships, and more meaningful impact. When you were learning to walk, you fell hundreds of times. Those falls weren't signs you weren't meant to walk. They were necessary steps in developing balance. When you learned to drive, you were terrified the first time, you merged onto a motorway or highway. That terror wasn't evidence that you shouldn't drive. It was your nervous system calibrating, to a new level of capability. And the pattern always is the same. Discomfort is the doorway, not the destination. Just remember that. So what I want to do, let me just share with you a couple of stories to prove this principle operates in every level of achievement. Vera Wang, I was reading about her the other day. Story is remarkable. Here was a woman who faced rejection after rejection. She was a competitive figure skater who failed to make the Olympic team. Imagine the discomfort of watching others achieve the dream you couldn't reach. Then she worked in fashion journalism for 17 years. She was passed over for the editor-in-chief position she desperately wanted. Most people would have interpreted these as signs to give up. But at 40 years old, when conventional wisdom says you're too old to start over again, particularly in fashion, she walked through the door of discomfort and entered the bridal design industry. She had no formal design training. She had to learn everything from scratch, while competing with established designers half her age. Every day was uncomfortable. Every decision was uncertain, but those very doors of discomfort, she decided to walk through, built her into one of the most successful designers in the world today. Vera Wang today is worth hundreds of millions of dollars and has dressed some of the most influential women on the planet. So who else? Oprah Winfrey, born into poverty, faced abuse, encountered racism. She was told she was too emotional for television. Every major breakthrough, in her career required walking through doors of intense discomfort. When she decided to start her own production company, people told her she was crazy. When she launched OWN, her network, it struggled initially and the critics called it a failure. But she kept walking through discomfort. And today, I don't need to tell you, she's one of the most influential people in media. Michael Jordan, and I know you know some of these stories, but some of them are really important to teach the point. Cut from his basketball team. The discomfort and rejection could have ended his story, but instead it became that pain to drive himself to levels of excellence that seemed literally impossible to other people. Every championship required walking through the door of discomfort, in terms of intense training, crushing defeats, the enormous pressure. The pattern, though, is unmistakable. Every person who's achieved something meaningful has learned to treat discomfort as a compass pointing towards potential, not a wall or a door blocking their path. So, let me give you a framework for working with discomfort that will change everything. I call it the Discomfort Navigation System. Here's how it works. Step 1. Reframe your relationship with discomfort. Stop seeing discomfort as evidence you're doing something wrong and start seeing it as evidence that you're doing something that really matters, something that's going to build you into the person that you say you're committed to. See, when you feel that flutter of anxiety before a big presentation, don't interpret it as I'm not ready. Interpret it as I'm growing, I'm developing. When you feel uncertain about a decision, don't think this must be wrong. This must be important is what you have to think. Step 2, identify your growth edge right now. There's an area of your life where you know you need to grow, but you've been avoiding it because it feels too uncomfortable. Maybe it's having a difficult conversation, maybe it's starting something, maybe it's ending something. Maybe it's starting a creative project. Maybe it's, ending a relationship that no longer serves you. Your growth edge is always hiding behind your biggest discomfort. Step 3 is you take micro actions. You don't have to leap off a cliff, you can step off a curb. If public speaking terrifies you, don't book a TED Talk. Speak up more in your next meeting. If starting a business feels overwhelming, don't quit your job today. Spend 1 hour this weekend researching your idea. Small acts of courage compound into massive change and massive transformations. And step 4, celebrate discomfort. This is the most important step. Every time you choose discomfort over comfort, celebrate it, acknowledge it. Acknowledge that you did something that most people wouldn't do. You walked through the door that most people stand in front of forever, contemplating whether they should move or not. You're not just building a business or a skill, you're building your courage and you're building that muscle. Remember this, every expert was once a beginner. Every master once a disaster. Every legend was once a nobody and decided to walk through discomfort instead of walking around it. The question is whether you'll still use it as a stepping stone or literally a stopping point. So here's the final call to action. I want to leave you with these questions that will hopefully change your life as you start to answer them honestly. Question number 1, what discomfort have you been avoiding because it feels too awkward, too scary, too uncertain? Name it, get specific. That thing you just thought of, that's your doorway to the next level. Number 2, second, if discomfort was actually the signal that you're on the right path, not the wrong one, how would you change the way you approach your goals? Would you still be waiting for certainty, or would you start moving towards uncertainty? And third, what's one area of your life where you've been standing outside the door, waiting for it to feel easier? That door isn't going to open itself. The only way, as they say, is through. So here's your mission, should you accept it. Today, not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel ready. Take one action that makes you feel uncomfortable. Send the email. You've been drafting in your head. Send the email. Pick up the phone. Take the action. Make the call that needs to be made. Sign up for the class that you've been talking about. Apply for that position that feels, like a stretch. Have that conversation that needs to happen. Don't wait until it feels safe, because safety is the enemy of growth. Don't wait until you feel confident, because confidence comes from action, not the other way around. Step through the doorway. Discomfort is not an obstacle. It's literally the way to success. All right, this is Benson for Performance Capability. Thank you so much for listening to this video. I hope you got some value out of it. Please tune in to the next one or have a look at my other videos. And in the meantime, be sure to follow the 7 stars. I'll see you soon.